Hello, can you hear me? Do I need to say nice things down the phone or secret things? There's quite a few people. Andrew's just heading off to get some cake now that you've left the room. Yep, she's gone for Victoria Sponge. She's thinking about it. The chips are just arriving, so I need to get back in here now. Can you still hear me? I did enjoy trying the Google Cardboard, and I would like one of those. Here comes Sammy and Darren. Oh, Darren's been a good boy and he's picked his form up. He's filling them in. Yep. I'm just going to go and see them, Rob. They're looking at me and waving. Okay. Right, over and out. I've got to go.
I'm okay at the moment, thanks.
Sandwiches and chips. Help yourselves, please. Until about 20 minutes. that there are always something. Yeah. Well, basically, there's
Good news story.
And then I've offered it to another centre that said no.
it's also wrong with
The stream status has gone green.
Stream is green.
Stream is green. See you, doctor.
Phil, you got that page?
Will it play a video?
Yeah, the sound might be a little bit funny for people online. Is it that video? Yeah. What I'll do now, I'll just
That's amazing. looks a lot. It looks more amazing from outside than on the inside.
Oh my gosh, you just see this for a It's a big plate, it's full. Basically, take about 50
Where is the camera set to, Rob?
It needs to be stood fair. So near the screen, so you can't just
Tell me when you want to kick off. Okay, everyone, can we're just going to make a start if that's okay. We all set, Rob? People online can hear and everything, yeah? Great, okay. Well, welcome everyone to the third digital marketing meetup of 2014. I'll be very brief, and the aim is tonight to the presentations in this next hour. If we can keep any questions until the end of the session, because we have got a few people that are watching online, and although they can hear the speakers, they won't be able to hear questions from the floor. So if I can ask everyone online, if you've got questions, to post them as the speakers are talking, and then at the end of the speeches, we will take those questions first. And then we'll deal with questions from the floor after that, so that if people need to shoot off at 7:30, or people online want to leave us at that time, then they can. A big thank you, as always, to all of the people that give up their time to come and share their knowledge with other members of the business community. Without their help, these sessions obviously wouldn't run. And a really big thank you to Neil Roach and Export Cornwall this evening, who have sponsored this event, which makes a really big difference to us that organise it, in that we can actually afford to keep these events going. And it's great to see that the attendance has been really good tonight, and we welcome anybody it's the first meetup that they've come to. So I'll just run through who our speakers are, and I'll let them I won't spend too long over it, but really delighted to have Phil Geraghty, who's MD of Crowdfunder, and Phil's going to talk about a subject very close to my heart, and that is the whole marketing metrics and measurements. And these guys have got a really great dashboard that they have in their office, and track things really, really well. It's something that I haven't seen the likes of being used locally. So Phil's going to talk about that. Next, over to the queen of content, Jess Collins. And the thing I asked for Jess to talk about is planning content, and this message of it being quality, not quantity. But practically, I see businesses really struggling with how they actually plan and execute their content, and so Jess is going to give us an overview of how to do that. And next, the lady who's actually going to talk about what we say and how we create emotion, and what are the words and the messages, and how do you create those. So that's Jakki Magowan from Narrative Junction. And then finally, last but not least, who our regular slot, we all love to come along and listen to Rob's latest on Google. He's got some amazing gadgets to share. I've just experienced Google Cardboard for the first time tonight. And Rob's going to talk about changes in SEO. He's going to talk about some of the geographical measures in analytics, which obviously there's an international theme running through the content tonight. But Rob's going to focus on that, as well as some changes around HTTPS and Google Tag Manager as well. If anyone's got any questions, as I say, leave them. If you can leave them to the end. And we'll be following this. Anyone who wants to tweet about tonight, it's hashtag CornwallDMG. And that's it from me. Okay, so over to Phil. Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
That's the projector.
So, a little bit about us. So, we're Crowdfunder. We do. I'm not going to talk tonight too much about what crowdfunding is and how it works. That's what I normally talk about where I go. So it's quite nice.
Sorry, Phil.
Tonight.
Could you stand that side, just in the microphone?
It's quite nice tonight to talk a little bit about.
Sorry, just there.
This side.
Yeah. Everybody can hear you then and see you.
It's quite nice tonight to talk a little bit about kind of how we do it rather than what we do. So I can show you a little bit of kind of what we do, but most of this is about how we do it. So we're the UK's #1 rewards-based crowdfunding platform, so we crowdfund more than all the rest of the UK platforms put together. And that's kind of come about in the last 2 years, basically, from above a little surf shop in Newquay. So it started off with me and a couple of interns, and there's now about 21 of us in there, including Graham over there. Hello, Graham. And most of us are kind of digital marketing people, so that's kind of our background. That's how we kind of came to crowdfunding, and we've kind of taken it from there. We help kind of businesses, so most of those are startup businesses and charities and community groups. We help them raise money from the crowd around them. So we spend a lot of our day talking to projects about how they can crowdfund, what they can crowdfund. Some of you may have seen the Foo Fighters crowdfunding campaign that's going on at the moment. So that just topped 100 grand. Their crowdfunding Fighters to come and play in Cornwall. So great projects like that. We most of what we do is all over the country, but we've got a real kind of passion, obviously, for Cornwall and doing more stuff in Cornwall. But 90% of the business we do is across the rest of the country. So at our kind of hearts, kind of what I've said is kind of that we're kind of, a lot of our stuff kind of comes from data, and we kind of always take it from the data to start with. And so one of the challenges we had as a business was kind of how do you, I've got 20 people in the office, how do I make it really apparent to them what's going on? We live in a very real-time business. There's stuff changing and moving the whole time. Projects are coming on, projects are getting funded, things are moving. How do I make it really visible to everybody what's actually happening? So we created this, which is our dashboard. So this was based on a system called Gecko Board, which is a publicly available system. It cost about $10 a month or something. So I went online looking for stuff that we could use to try and demo, display what we're doing. We found Gecko Board, and it's actually run by some guys in East London that actually run it, and we're one of their poster boys now using it, which is really cool. And basically it feeds from lots of different systems but displays it all on one page. And I think one of the challenges with all this stuff at the time is not what you display, it's what you don't display. It's about stripping stuff out. So we had lots of iterations of this around showing everything and everything and everything, and then after a while you realise sometimes you're looking at stuff and sometimes you're not. So the sort of things, the first thing everyone looks at when they come into the office is this one here, which everyone knows is how much we've raised today. So this, the snapshot is taken yesterday, was just shy of 20 grand. This is kind of what we look at first thing in the morning, which is how much did we finish raising yesterday. So there's 57 grand in there. What we raised in total, 2.5 million. And then we've got other stuff in here, like number of projects added in today. So at this point when we took it, there was 15 projects that had been added to the site by that point of the day. 3 of them had gone live already. So it shows you the momentum of the business and how it's working. This is also available on our mobile phones, sadly. So this, when the Foo Fighters project went live the other night, and it went live at about 5:30, and we've done 30 grand within the first 2 hours. And I'm sitting there having dinner with my wife, and just kind of going like that, refreshing it and seeing it move. It's great fun to kind of watch the numbers come to life. So this is kind of basically run off a lot of the data from our websites. We've got some basic APIs, which I built the original ones of, and then the dev guys told me that was useless and they rewrote it. So it works much more smoothly now. But like I said, I think that's one of the things we got from this was once we'd done it, literally the numbers doubled within about a month. All the numbers of projects going live, amount we were getting funded, and it's just that visibility of the data that means that everybody in the office can focus on it, because they're sitting there at 5 o'clock going, what do you mean we've only got 5 projects live today? We're supposed to get 10 projects live every day. And so they know exactly where they are at any one point, and there's an accountability to everybody around the office as well, so everyone knows where we're at. We've also got up here what projects are trending at the moment, so we can see, the Foo Fighters project got 55 grand today, this project got 10 grand, this project, so you can see which projects are the ones moving, so the press team can use that quite a lot in kind of going, okay, what stuff are we going to start pushing in the media, what stuff are we going to start pushing through the socials, because we want to push the stuff that's kind of moving already and got a certain amount of momentum with it. So that's our dashboard. I'm going to flick through a few other things that we use that may be of interest. This is Pipedrive, which we use to manage all of the projects that we're speaking to. So we've got about 5,000 projects that we're in conversation with at any one time. So we looked at things like Salesforce.com, which a lot of organisations do. Extremely expensive, extremely overwieldy for what we needed. This thing was $9 per user per month, which I love. So we kind of get running on $9 per user per month. We got running with 1 or 2 licenses, just started working with it, and then now it's fully integrated in what we do. So as soon as a project gets added to our site, it pings up over here on the left-hand side, gets assigned to somebody, and they're responsible for moving that across right through to kind of fully funded. So we'll pick out projects that we want to speak to, guide them through the crowdfunding process, and then move them along that journey. So at any one point, there's 12 million quid's worth of projects sitting in there in that kind of temp basket that they're working with at any one point, trying to bring across the things. But this is kind of a lot of what we do is very, very cheap, very basic tools, but using them really effectively and just trying to hunt out what are those tools that are kind of we can use. This is another one which I love, which is the Crazy Egg heat map. So this is our homepage, and we have constant battles, as a lot of you will, with the design team about what goes where and how much goes above the fold, below the fold, all of that stuff. And this was a great tool for this, because I was having ongoing discussions with the design team about how much stuff they could put down here, and I didn't like any stuff down there, but we could show them on our site in real time that as you scroll down, I lose 75% of the people if you put it here. And if you go down to another scroll up and down to only 5% of the people, so give me everything up and high. So that's Crazy Egg. This is another one which is kind of quite funny for me, which is Mandrill. So we had lots of issues with emails. So as the site grew over the last 2 years, we were sending more and more emails out. The system itself is sending emails. So you send an update to everyone who's backed your project. That's now going to 10,000 people who backed your project, and there's lots all over the place. We started having issues with emails being delivered. So we spoke to our sister company, Crowdcube, who are based in Exeter, who do the equity crowdfunding system. They recommended it to us. So it basically, all the emails go through Mandrill. Mandrill deals with all the delivery of it, and then it tells us how many emails have been delivered and how many have not. So we know we're at kind of 98.8% deliverability. We know the emails have definitely gone through. We've now got loads of automated email chains going as well to projects. So all the projects we have live at any point get a daily email every morning that tells them what stage they're at, how much they've funded, what they need to do to hit their target, what percentage are they going to hit target, are they not going to hit target. So there's lots of automated stuff that's now going through this. It's allowed us to kind of scale up massively what we're doing. Good old Google Analytics. So we're using a lot of the Google Analytics funnels to kind of understand how our users are kind of adding themselves to our site. So we're quite lucky in that you put in crowdfunding into Google, we'll come up #1 for the searches, which is fantastic. But then we've got to convert them through to a project and get them live. So we do a lot of work on the sign up funnel, making sure that when they come in, they get the best experience. We get that project through and we get it live at the end of it. So by using stuff like this, we've been able to increase the amount of people coming through that funnel without having to increase more people coming to the website. I'm just working to getting more of them through the whole time. There's a mixture of kind of the page layout, but also the messaging on the page and the help guides on the page and all that stuff, and running several kind of A/B tests alongside each other, which is good fun. And then we've kind of taken those analytics now, because we're the data geeks, we've kind of taken that and we've kind of put that out to our project owners. So a lot of our time has been spent saying, actually, if you're running a crowdfunding project with us, what can I show you back at you? So with projects like this, I can say, okay, your target's 150 grand to get the Foo Fighters to come to Cornwall. We've pledged, at this point, we've pledged 62 grand against that. If they kept going at that rate, by the end of the 60 days, they'd have raised 3.5 million. Which means you could probably get the Foo Fighters and a few of their friends to come along with them. Shows you how many people have visited that project. There have been almost 7,000 people who have seen that project, and what the conversion rate of that is. So how many people have seen the page and then actually pledged on the project. So we know from all of our stuff that the conversion rate sits somewhere between 5% up to about 15%. So 8.26 is pretty good. Using this, we can kind of steer the projects on what they should do next. So if they're getting lots of traffic but no pledges, then it was like, well, make your project a bit more exciting, make your rewards a bit more exciting, and work on that. A lot of times they're just not getting enough people to the page. They might be doing the conversion okay, but we're just like, actually you need to drive more people to your crowdfunding page to get funded. So yeah, so that's kind of one of our recent developments which we've rolled out. What I wanted to do now is kind of show you something online, if I can. Let's flick over to the other one. Thanks, Rob. So we've been doing the crowdfunding stuff for about 2 years. What we really wanted to do was do a... can you show the page? That was just the other tab on there. So we did our first ever live crowdfunding event from Eden about 2 weeks ago. So we streamed it live, and what we did is we brought together 3 food startups. So we got Snack, who do like a dried fruit jerky, Atlantic Kitchen, who do seaweed and Cornish ketchup, and basically they go head to head for an hour live stream from the Eden project, and they have to crowdfund as much as they possibly can within that hour. So selling their products within an hour. It's a lot of social media stuff built into this, because each of the projects are using their own social media accounts to kind of drum up support, help kind of build up support. 2.5 million people would have seen that kind of social reach. And we've got a little, I'm going to kind of end on a little video that we've got. I'm not going to play you the whole thing, but there's just a little, play you like the first minute or so of this. It's a little summary of kind of what happened in that time.
Team or the project that you want.
We're going to meet our panel.
Gil Miller, head chef, River Cottage.
I think that they're all inspiring.
Usual few people like Toby in the room that are like that. It took me quite a while to understand Google marketing, AdWords. forensics in meeting lawyers that may be able to effective chunk of money on Google AdWords. That's great with business example. And I know we try to do something on one of my websites.
Sorry, our website now. And it really works. I think the right people here, especially in North Africa. Thanks for putting that out there.
Background about me, I've worked in traditional marketing roles for over 20 years, mainly in the leisure and tourism, food and drink industries. Now I've been working in digital for about 2 years, so I'm trying to keep up with all the developments, which you probably all know are very fast these days. So today I'm going to give a presentation on business storytelling, sort of a whistle-stop tour, because there's so much to say about business storytelling, but I'm going to try and cram it in 15 minutes. I'm also going to offer you some ways in which you can work towards creating some brand language and business stories as well. So what's the big deal about business storytelling at the moment? But first of all, what is it? The Content Marketing Institute have crafted a paragraph that says, brands sharing messages in ways that engage audiences and drive them to take desired action. So in a nutshell, it's a distinct content discipline that allows leverage of really well-crafted stories to put them into different formats. So that could be web page, About Us page, product page, service page, but also video, storyboards, advertising, infographics, amongst many others. So due to digital media, digital marketing, social media channels, everyone has become a publisher, and Jess touched on that recently in her presentation. And just in February of this year, Contently, HubSpot and the Content Strategist heralded business storytelling as the skill to have within business over the next 5 years. And I've got a link to that article if you want to read some more about it at the end of the presentation. Now, storytelling, everyone knows it's as old as the hills. And we're certainly subject to business storytelling every day by big global brands. But what I find surprising is that far fewer small businesses use this as a tool. Storytelling is powerful, it's a timeless skill, and if smaller Cornish businesses drew inspiration from big global brands, I think they'd be more likely to make an impact on the international market and help grow the Cornish economy. So how do you pull stories together? And that's what I'm going to delve into. I'm not going to try and stand here and convince you why you should be doing storytelling. I thought it would be more useful if I delved a little bit into the way that certainly I approach the subject. Firstly, it's obviously important to create a business storytelling plan. It allows you to experiment and test different options. And this process can help you draw from and inspire your own content strategy or your marketing plan as well. So what I tend to do is I consider 5 basic elements, which is the audience, language, emotions, and the innovative senses when creating and sharing stories. So this is all vital towards creating some effective stories. So again, focusing on audience, good stories surprise. They have compelling characters. They make us think. They make us feel. They stick in our minds. a lot longer than a graph or a sheet of statistics would do. And in order to really make really good contact with your audience, I always focus on these 4 key values. First one is your company values. What actually are your company values? This needs to come through in your business storytelling. What does your company stand for? Is it honesty? Then if it is, by God, you need to be creating a story around that to exemplify why that's one of your business values. Also, tone. How are you going to define your tone of voice? Have you looked at chat on social media? Have you seen the language and the words that your customers use? Is a humorous tone appropriate for your audience, or do you want to keep it more professional? Also, it's quite a challenge to put is, and I'll show you an example of that shortly. And also characters that are involved in your business. If it's a family-run business, do you have a rich history that you can write a story about? I think it's really great that you can capture the spirit of any company through an interesting founder or staff members. So another important element is the language that you use, and it's a great opportunity to differentiate your brand and connect with your customers. Why fall back on cliches of innovative solutions, award-winning brand, groundbreaking solutions? It's all quite dull. And what I find really works really well is to go through a brainstorming session with relevant members of staff to think about different types of wording that you can use that can help elucidate your brand more effectively. So this one, for example, I've been working with a bakery recently, and they were sick of using the word tasty and delicious and things like that. So we all sat down and decided on a group of words that they would want to put on their packaging, in all their messaging, particularly when they were talking about their products. So some quite funny ones on there. I think that was for a Cornish pasty, actually, that particular one. Whether it be an external agency or an internal member of staff, they can use this and it's quite a useful document. So emotional benefits really important storytelling, because you seek to influence customer experience and perception of the brand through the use of emotions. You can do this on either product or service. So again, I think this was on the same bakery with the pasty. So I got them to think about the features of their product, what the tangible benefit was, and then the resulting emotion of having gone through that experience. And then the idea is once they have collected all their raft of emotions, they can start creating stories that embody these emotions. So a quick example. This is F. Whitlock and Sons. They use humour because obviously they believe that that captures the imagination of their audience. They've used a fun narrative and placed Frederick Whitlock at the centre of their campaign as a head character to describe the reason for their rebrand. And it's also offering some characterisation as well. They describe him as a real man, and you know, his determined nature shines through. Key messages are really important also. It's gone a bit funny, that one. Primary message is the single most important thing people should know about your business, and these should always be created before storytelling and creating copy for your web pages. And also secondary messages, which are a group of messages which underpin the primary message. So for example, we've got Ben & Jerry's there. We make the best possible ice cream in the best possible way. That's their primary message, it's on their homepage. And then underneath, you've got lots of secondary messages that you can delve deeper into. They go into the ethical sourcing of their ingredients, and also how they work with managing the environment in an ethical way as well. So obviously they're key messages that they wanted to get across. Now I've been told we can't watch this video until the end, so bear with me. Innovation. to offer your messaging in an innovative way, it's great to use the 5 senses, so obviously sight, sound, taste, smell and feel. And I don't know if you guys remember the Lurpak advert. I think this is the most recent one, it's fairly recent. But the great thing about this advert, it really uses the senses, it uses colour, the wording in the rhyme that Rutger Hauer, he tells a little rhyme as the video goes along. And there's lots of chopping and mashing and stuff, and it really gets you involved in the product. And it's a great example of using the senses, so we'll watch that at the end. Sorry about that. Obviously it's easier for some brands than others to capture the 5 senses with the way they talk about their products and services, because if it's a bit more of a professional service then it's a bit more difficult. But that's when the creative process really needs to kick in. So I don't know if anyone wants to have a guess whose company story this is, which brand. Any ideas?
Amazon?
No, it's actually Bowden. And it's very much their brand style. They use a lot of humour, and the great thing that I love about this is the Sunday Times writer and brand consultant James Hammond has created something that's called Brand Me, and it very much talks about the adversity and the tough times as well as the good times and the success stories that really make for a great company story. People, your customers are rooting for you if you can show the journey that you've gone through, and I think they do this very effectively through their storytelling. So I just wanted to touch briefly on shareability, and there are 2 links there. Again, I can email these to people if they want them at the end after the presentation. But the first one is an article by Shane Snow on pointer.org, and he really talks, he delves deep into publishing and building, companies are building digital newsrooms, so they're really getting onto the business storytelling angle, and sitting down, having meetings, similar to what Jess was saying earlier, and thinking, right, okay, what's our business storytelling plan? It's a really interesting article to read. And also, I don't know if any of you are aware of Amanda Palmer, musician and songwriter, that helped raise $1.2 million in 30 days simply through storytelling. She was also on a Kickstarter, but that's a fantastic example of someone who's really grasped storytelling and taken it one step forward. Last slide. And also, if you want some further reading on business storytelling, Content Marketing Institute, they've got some great last blog post. I attended a session with advisors that you can do if you're interested, so have a look at that also. Thank you. Shall I play the video, or it's a bit out of context?
Hopefully it won't cut everybody off online this time.
Whoever said green things are boring was so uncool. Chop, 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 chopping. Dice, 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 dicing. Peel, 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 peeling. We're cooking up a rainbow today. Healthy doesn't have to taste humdrum. Blend, 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 blend. Mash, 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 mashing. Roast, blanch, bash, braise, burning. We're cooking up a rainbow today. Chop, 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 chopping. We're knocking up, fixing up, whipping up. We're cooking up a rainbow. Hey, health lovers, say hello to new Lurpak latest.
So it's just an example, like Lurpak, it's yellow butter, but they were able to capture all, like most of the senses in that video in terms of colour, sound, and the wording that was used, and they created a really good story through Rutger Hauer doing a narrative over the top of that. So sorry, that was out of order. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I am not 7 months pregnant, don't be rude. I don't know how pregnant you are. But,
Spot on.
yeah. Oh, is it? All right. Yeah. It's also nothing to do with me. So this evening, really, just a discussion, quick discussion about a few bits and pieces that have changed recently at Google. Over the summer, Google don't do a great deal. And we try to chill out a little bit. We tend to see more of the new stuff come out this time of year, so we should see over the next few months a few more changes. There has been one very, very significant change that was announced in quite a peculiar way, and that's around the subject of HTTPS. And most of you will be familiar with HTTPS, the golden padlock or the green padlock as it appears up here now, and that's where each of the pages on the site is using SSL and HTTPS. The guidelines that Google have now issued is they would like everybody, every website, every page on every website to be HTTPS. As a reward for that, initially they'll give you it will be a slight ranking signal, and they'll favour HTTPS sites over non-HTTPS sites, but in the future it's going to be a much greater signal. We've already started in testing, and with UK NetWeb and ourselves, we've actually upgraded our site, so all of the pages of our site now are all HTTPS. It's fairly painless move over, but there are some considerations for hosting, the configuration of the website, and some of the external factors: Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Webmaster Tools, Google My Business, and all of your social media platforms linking back and any external links. It's one of those things that even for smaller businesses, we're now recommending that you start looking at this and get it implemented as soon as possible. If you're an e-commerce site, it might be a little bit easier for you because you may already have a certificate already, and it's just a case of making some changes to the site. But it's something that you all need to be considering. We've been through it obviously with our own site, we're going through it with most of our clients now, and we're constantly looking at the change and whether we see an improvement in ranking, if we see a drop in ranking, and we've documented every part of that process now. So far so good for our own sites and the other sites that we've already migrated. In our site, we've seen a very slight increase in ranking, but it is only very slight. But it's one of those. It was quite unusual as well. It's a total change to their. Previously, HTTPS pages used to rank lower than HTTP pages. There were issues around speed and all sorts of issues around having pages as HTTPS. It's totally changed the other way around, and they've been very public about what is quite a major algorithm change, which they're usually fairly secretive about that and leave it to the community to work out what's gone on. This time they've been very clear what they want. So definitely something for you to be looking at. A big change, quite a costly change for smaller businesses it could be, or smaller sites, e-commerce sites and larger sites. It's not going to be too much of an issue for them. The next thing is Google Tag Manager. At these events we've talked about Google Tag Manager quite a lot. We're now recommending that everybody uses Google Tag Manager on their websites, on their booking systems, on their anything to do with their site. It's just making life a lot easier. We're also starting to do some more advanced things with Tag Manager. Things like tracking external links is something fairly normal and has in the past been easy-ish to do, but put quite a lot of the responsibility for that tracking on the web developer. Google Tag Manager now puts that in the control of the online marketer or the manager of a business or the marketing manager of the business. But what we can also do now is track things like if you've got an embedded YouTube or Vimeo video on your website, we can put an event listener on that and a tracker. We can see how many people have played or paused the video, how long the video has been played for, whether they skip past it. And Phil showed some examples of some other applications of heat maps and watching people hover over and that sort of thing. Tag Manager can do that all for you now free, and you can actually get some of that data now into analytics. Other things that we've been doing over the last few months with Tag Manager, last time I mentioned it, tracking weather data. When somebody visits a website, we can interrogate a weather API, see what the weather conditions are like where that user was, and record that in analytics. And that's been quite useful for looking at trends. Does good weather improve bookings, or does it affect e-commerce sales? And we can look at that data actually in analytics now, but it's all powered by Google Tag Manager. The other thing that it's enabled is much easier control of offline tracking. When somebody goes from the website, maybe fills in an inquiry form, goes into a back-end system and maybe a CRM, goes through that process, gets signed up as a customer. At that point, we can then feed data back into Google Analytics through the measurement protocol, and again, we can control a lot of that through Tag Manager. So it's making our lives a lot easier. It's taken a bit of work for developers, but it's very, very quick to deploy, very, very quick to screw your website up with it. So do be careful. Do be careful with it. But excellent tool, really, really, really good tool for every website, and also free. It's a free tool. Goes hand in hand with Universal Analytics now. Soon we won't even call Universal Analytics Universal Analytics. It will just be Analytics. It's now the operating standard for Google. So for any of you who haven't already migrated onto Universal Analytics, you ought to now, to do with custom variables and the likes, are already deprecated. And the final thing for me is really an extension of Google Tag Manager, and that's some of the control that it's now giving us around not only tracking where sales are coming from. So this is just a smallish e-commerce site. We can see where revenue is coming from by country. Now this feature has been available for many years in analytics. The quality of that data is getting better as we see more and more mobile and tablet users, and we're getting better geographic location signals. We can see down to town level where revenue is coming from, where people are visiting websites from. That data is getting more accurate. It's always been good at country level, but what we're seeing now, and we're working with quite a few different businesses with UKTI as well, looking at export. And this is allowing us to see what countries are performing really well. And using Tag Manager, we can actually isolate those countries. In some cases, we've got one we're meeting with tomorrow that's developing the Japan market. And we're now using Google Tag Manager to segment all of that traffic, push it out of the way, have a separate analytics property just for Japan, and then we can see what's going on there. And we can take those little chunks of data. So any traffic that would come from Germany, let's say for example, we could isolate that, put it into its own property, and manage the data. You'd probably still have one umbrella analytics property, but then we've got several other properties for each of the different countries, and it allows people who are responsible for those different regions to concentrate just on that market. And Tag Manager's making that much easier for us to actually get those analytics accounts set up and working and tracking properly. And then you eventually it'll make it easier to lift that part of the site up and take it somewhere else if it's required. So just a bit of a reintroduction to that side of things. As an extent, the audience, interests and demographic for different things. Andrew and myself were with a client in Morocco a little bit earlier in the year, and we worked out that people who booked that particular hotel in the main were BMW drivers. And you've got about 3,500–4,000 categories of interest in market segments people are interested in, and we've got all the conversion data, the booking data, the usage data in here as well. So with the geographic data and with the demographic data, age, gender, and also interest, we can make display advertising much more targeted now, much more targeting. And that's really driving down the cost of display advertising, certainly. Remarketing as well can be introduced to that, and it's just making things much more efficient. We can drive the cost down, but increase the conversion. So some nice tools. A few of these have been around for a while, but we're now just starting to see some good quality data in there. I mentioned earlier in the year about user tracking and cross-device tracking. That's still not fantastic at the moment, but the steps are being made to improve that, and there's a big change coming next week to the AdWords interface, which will allow you to report more accurately on the cross-device transactions or its estimated cross-device transactions. So more about that perhaps next time when we've got a little bit more information on that. So that's me for now, certainly for the online audience. As of last time, toys around, so bought a little bit of cardboard called Google Cardboard. There's a few of those hanging around, and if anybody wants to try Google Glass as well, that's there. So feel free to have a play around with that. Obviously, the online audience can't have a go at that. And now I think it's just for Neil, to our sponsor, to say a few words. Not me personally, but thank you.
Okay, I think we're pretty close to 7:30, aren't we? My name's Neil Roach, for those of you who don't know me. I'm an international trade advisor for UK Trade and Investment. And for those of you who don't know that, UK Trade and Investment is a government department that is solely there to help businesses that want to invest in the UK, but more specifically, those businesses in the UK that want to export out. Breaking down all the perceived barriers and just trying to make the journey as easy as possible. There are a number of ways we help, and not the only two that I'll mention. If you can consider all of the markets that you just saw on that map there, by markets I mean in individual country, we've got embassies in well over 150 countries of the 196 that are on this rock of ours, and aside from all the Ferrero Rocher and diplomatic stuff that goes on in those, there is always a trade team there, and we link out with those trade teams. Those are our colleagues, and things like market research and translation mentoring, if you're visiting that market, is all available through us. Secondly, the Export Cornwall, which has the reason for us sponsoring tonight is just to get that name out. Cornwall's businesses have a very different need to the businesses elsewhere in the country. So on the basis behind that is that we will use the European money that's available in Cornwall to extend out those services that otherwise wouldn't be available, based on business size, business location, and so on and so forth. So if you've got any questions about international, you can either ask me in a moment, or you can contact us via UKTI or Export Cornwall. I suppose for now, we're still going out live. If we've got any questions from the digital floor.
Just asking, none so far, so if we go for one from the room first.
So one from the room for any of our speakers this evening.
Can I just ask the speakers to pop up to the front as well, so that everyone can see you again? Thanks.
I think that will help me out, to be honest. I need to stand on a chair.
It's going to be a short-lived visit, this one. Any burning questions that anyone's willing to...
I've got a question for Phil. I'll start. So, in your Monday meetings, what are the sort of top things that you focus on? You know, are there sort of 5 stats that you look at every week? And if so, what are they?
So basically we go through traffic stats from last week, how much was funded on projects last week, how many projects came in to us, so it's about 250, 300 projects a week we're getting at the moment into us, and that's grown, you know, well, 2 years ago it was about 10 projects a week, so it's grown quite nicely. And what else is on there, Gray?
What we put live.
What we put live, so that's a lot of we've got a lot of crowdfunding coaches that sit in the office, and they'll be working on helping those projects get live, so their main driver is how many projects did I get live during that week, and how have those projects done. That's kind of, so that's probably about top 5 or so, 6. We tend to shake it around as we get bored. certain numbers.
And do they get cascaded back to your team then when you finish your meeting?
Yeah, so they get sent out before. So everyone in the company's seen them before we get into that room,
Right.
and then we kind of have a kind of senior team meeting, and everyone else kind of goes off and does what they need to do. But yeah, everyone's got access to those, which helps.
Yeah.
Really
Right.
helps.
Yes, far away.
Robert, it might be a question for Toby. The HTTPS, you can get, I think it's either 3 or 4 different types of certificates, and to get the harder ones. Does Google care? Can you just get the cheapest, easiest one?
You can't go for the cheap one, so as a minimum you want 2048 bit as a minimum. We've been going for, I think Toby's gone for it as well, the extended validation certificate. I'd recommend you go for the most expensive one you can afford.
There's one that requires company officers to sign a pile of paperwork and do that, and there's one
ours was quite straightforward. It was all done online. Toby initiated all the certificate registrations, and basically a couple of emails came back that were digitally signed, and then there was one phone call to Starfield, I think it was, just to prove it. And that was the absolute top one. That was.
That apparently isn't.
The basic domain validated one, it's just like, have you got access to the management emails? Do they treat that as a lower?
Yeah, that's not extended validation. I can't remember what it's called.
But that's the sort of thing that costs you.
Basically, there's manual checks. So domain validation is an automated process, and basically you just got to have control of that domain. So normally you authenticate by, they'll send an email to who is the registered who is, but lots of people protect that. Then they'll perhaps they might ask you to do a CNAME, special CNAME, DNS entry. So essentially, it's just to say that yes, you have control. The principle of EV extended validation is that it's actually they're checking to make sure that you are a real company. So they will. So there is actually a human that goes. That does.
Because when I looked at it, some of the versions actually required you to send copies of certificates of incorporation and stuff like that. So some of them are well beyond what you're saying. Because we're doing it for 2 clients at the moment, and we looked at the alternatives and we went, that one just looks really easy. We've gone for I think it's the second or third one. There is a top one where you've got to get directed to the company to sign papework.
Yeah, I had to digitally sign, but it was literally just a reply to the email saying, I've received this email, thanks. But then a phone call came in to verify, and then I had to call back out. And it was very quick. I mean, I dropped the guy an email back saying, give us a call whenever you're ready, and like less than a minute later, he rang back.
The first ones we did were like a few years ago were like £600, and yes, it was a really painful process. You had to get like photocopy and incorporation certificates, all that sort of stuff, and send that off. Although more recently we've been using Starfield, but what they're doing is that they've got operate in certain countries, but they access company house records, and therefore the principle of EV is basically you have to prove that the company that are requesting the certificate are the company that they say they are, basically. And so therefore there's
okay, you might inadvertently ask my question. Maybe my server guys for these 2 clients were by someone who had a link into company's house, and that's why it was that extra layer.
The first EV certificates I did, whenever they first came out, 2014, that's 7 years ago. I can't remember, something like that. And that, it was early days of it, but more recently they have, they're going into company's house. They're also looking at but they're getting data from lots of other sources. So when you do the certificate, you've got to make sure that you do put the public. So I accidentally put my mobile number on it, and they wouldn't accept that because my mobile number is not listed as an official company address on various other databases. So what they have done now is basically they've automated and streamlined it, and it does work.
It was really straightforward because I was, I said to Toby, it's like,
The difference is you're the director, you can answer the phone call. When I'm dealing with a client that's got 26 offices around the world and the directors are all over the place, to get one of them to respond as the official person or the head of IT or whatever.
They're going to have to do it.
That bit,
yeah, the balls of
but
it.
me coordinating with the marketing team that I deal with to deal with that bit actually starts becoming painful.
But
if you're dealing with a small company, it became easier.
Yeah, we're doing 11 at the moment, something like that.
But for us little guys, are Google using the difference between TV and EEV as a signal? I mean, is that...
They haven't said that they are going to do that yet, but what they've said is a minimum 2048.
Right,
but that's what they've said. But the EV side of things give you, other or gives Google other signals as well that they haven't documented. But
do you have to like force HTTP to HTTPS?
Yeah.
Right. So you do a force redirect.
Yeah, we've spent quite a lot of time going through the process of what to do, and so you've got things like 301s for everything. It's the right time to start using canonicalization for all of the URLs and putting all that sort of stuff in place. But there's a lot that can go wrong with it if it's not done properly, and that's the big risk. Once it's done, and one of the other things that just using a test like Qualsys to see the rating, we've gone A-, A+.
So
I say we've gone to A+ now as well. But that'll test some of the basics out of it. But you've also got to do obviously the testing on your own site to make sure it works. There's quite a bit of work to do within Google Webmaster Tools, Bing as well, just to make sure it all moves across. Essentially, it's changing changing all of the URLs on your site and changing the domain name effectively. That's how it's treated.
Step backwards. I get we're doing it because Google wants us to do it to make it go up. Why?
From
our point of view, that is the main reason we're doing it.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just asking.
The philosophy behind it is that essentially the web as it stands at the moment with just HTTP, you can intercept requests. You can. There's all sorts of.
I know you can, but it implies they think it's happening on a scale where this is important.
I mean, looking at the Google I/O presentation back in July, there was certainly an inference that there's a lot of that sort of stuff going on, a lot of scraping of email addresses and personally identifiable information as it goes across forms and that sort of thing. There's the other thing around trust, but the user doesn't actually see that all of that data is secured, and therefore by making the whole site HTTPS, then they feel secure.
This is actually going to turn me around because I quite often go, oh, I'm about to pay something, is the padlock on?
Yeah.
Yes, and I carry on.
Yeah.
Now the padlock will be on anyway, so I know it's that site, but they might have done, not have done other things that was focused just purely to the credit card bit of it. But maybe by default it is.
I mean, look if you're just like travelling around and say you've got a BT OpenReach account or actually Skype or actually using an awful lot of public access Wi-Fi, which is insecure basically. So you're filling in a form on a website, submitting that data, and anyone with anyone around that knows what they're doing can actually just be collecting all of that data. And I mean that's one of the key reasons, one of the key drivers for doing it. Obviously, if it's an HTTPS connection, then that cuts all that out. And I think, so from what I've read, that's the sort of one of the strongest philosophical reasons why Google have said that they want this. It's basically to tighten up and make the whole web more secure.
Isn't what's the name of, you'll know, what's the name of the big hacker conference in the States that every year that just happens? It's like a massive one. Apparently, DEFCON. Nobody turns up to the entire conference with a mobile phone, credit card, of any sort, because everyone uses paper, because everyone knows that everyone is hacking everybody else by default. Nobody turns up. You don't use the cash point machine. You turn up with cash.
A web tinfoil as well.
Probably. But so
I think they just need to get out of it.
Is it going to have a huge effect on caching? Because basically nothing is cacheable in HTTPS, so is it going to have static assets and so on? If they're being fetched through HTTPS, they're not cacheable.
Yeah.
So
possibly.
That's going to make a real mess of reason people's transparent caching.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to throw it to one of the other speakers because they're all brilliant presentations, but unfortunately this one's aimed back at Phil. You mentioned very kind of off the cuff that before the crowdfunding live presentation, whatever went which looked really good. He said, "Oh, and by the way, just beforehand, we've got everyone to do a thunder clap."
Yeah.
Sounds impressive, but what's the thunder clap?
So it's basically
I do it every morning.
Yeah, it's the first time we've done it. It's the first time we've done it with basically what it does is it allows you to have like I suppose you'd call it like a timed social media event. So what we did is we said this is going to go. We're going live at 7 o'clock on Friday night from the Mediterranean biome. People can sign up with their social media accounts beforehand, and it will do a tweet from their Twitter account at 7 o'clock as we go live. So basically it kind of buffers everybody's tweets and Facebook shares all to the same time, and then just pushes it out en masse.
So it's a tool that does that, is it?
Yeah, it's a tool that does it. So so me from my own personal Twitter account can go on and basically authorise it to send out a tweet through my account at 7 o'clock on Friday night of agreed text that I've said, okay, send that out. It can't send anything else out, it's just that one thing that it sends out. But it allows us to then blast that effectively to about 2.5 million people all at the same time. So it went out on things like the River Cottage Twitter account, which is about 500,000 people or something, and a range of others.
So it gives you access to see the exposure and things like that.
Yeah, so you can see it, and all of that had a hashtag, and you can see kind of the range of what that's going out to. It's quite cool when you've got a kind of timed event and you want to show kind of support for it. So you could do it for an event like tonight, as a thing saying we're all here, we've all signed up to it before, and then it goes out at 7:30 when we start talking, come and watch it online, type thing. It was very cool. It's the first time we've used it kind of with projects all going live at the same time like that, and it worked really well because they get competitive because you can see how many people have signed up for it, and you can also see the total reach of that sign up. So they all got about 100 people. I think it's 100 people they got each, at least. But then you can see that actually when those 100 accounts will tweet, that will reach 750,000 people, which is really, really cool. I liked it, it was fun. Got it nice and competitive on the run up to the event.
Yeah, the actual product is called Thundercloud.
Yeah.
You just click on.
Any more questions?
For yourself, just to, the export Cornwall, most of my company's clients aren't in Cornwall. And that means they don't qualify for sort of export Cornwall stuff or European funding, etc. And it's always in the back of my mind, sat there thinking for myself and everyone else in this room who delivers, or most people who has a business that has clients outside of Cornwall, would we be able to tap into, here's some money because we're doing the work and we're based in Cornwall, even though the actual business we're doing the work for is outside of Cornwall, if they are maybe an international export company?
UKTI, as I said, is a government department, so that covers the whole of England and Wales. Scotland have their own, as you would expect, their own separate department that does exactly the same thing. And around the country there are well over 450 of me going out into the field and seeing businesses direct. So the first protocol is you can send them to the UKTI website. They will find the big button there that says find me my nearest international trade advisor. Now Export Cornwall, you're right, is using the ERDF or convergence as we know it funding here in Cornwall, which is far higher apart from South Wales than anywhere else in the country. There are small pockets of it all the way around. They call it competitiveness funding, but if it's to relate to international activity, the international trade advisor local to your client, wherever they be, whether in Truro or Peterborough or Newcastle, they will be the best person to contact. UKTI split the country up into the old 9 regional development agency regions, so obviously we're in South West, there's London, South East, and so on and so forth. But yeah, there's 450 of me that they can tap into. Well, not all of them, but the one that's nearest to them. And we have a tendency to go sectoral based as well. So if they happen to be in advanced engineering, then that may well be the person that they need to speak to. So UKTI nationally will be the first protocol.
Thank you.
Now, so I'll give you 2 now, but there's so many good ones. I mean, there's some bad ones too. I'm loving working on the Live at Heartland stuff. That's been awesome. A live music event where you get to be on the ground reporting live there's nothing like it. It kills you, but it's amazing. And that's really good because we planned it in advance. So we had sort of somebody monitoring the live event there, someone responding to inquiries and stuff at camp, so not there, so they weren't distracted, and then we had pre-schedules, which were edited, monitored, and things like that. So you're sort of, everyone has to know what everyone else is doing all the time, and you don't know what's going to happen. So if someone was sick, one of the performers was sick, another performer goes in, it's very easy for that pre-schedule to go out and say, hey, Bob the Biscuit is on the stage, and he's not. So we have to really be on it all the time. There were so many changes and stuff happening backstage. And you've got egos, you know. Ali Campbell got quite an ego. Didn't want to have a picture taken for Facebook, but he did it. And then he went. And so that's really hard to manage when you're the one in the tent with the Happy Mondays, and you're the only one that's allowed in, and everyone's off their face, and you're like, hi, just quickly, quick interview, like all that kind of thing. But you know, the thrill of it's amazing. But also, we're working with Falmouth University at the moment on their open day campaigns. I love that. I love that so much because I can look like a student. And no one knows I'm undercover. So I dress like a student on the day, I go in and I get to see things from a student perspective and no social media. And that's an amazing feeling because I get to see things and hear things that you'd never normally, they would never tell a lecturer this. And so I get to hear, so I heard some really awful things at the last open day, but I could edit them and go, oh, I could use that, because you've always got to know what the objections are and the key messages. So like one of the objections to Falmouth is that people don't think it's happening enough. They don't think it's a cool enough university. So Bournemouth, which is a close rival, gets people on the scenes. So we have all kinds of things in place to make Falmouth look really happening. It is quite happening, but to make it look more happening. And so we plan that months in advance to make sure that by the time they leave Falmouth, they think it's the coolest place ever, and we're all exhausted. So yeah, that's good.
I think that brings us to a close, unless any hands go up. If there's any sandwiches and cake left, please light them up, doggy bag, take them home. Don't leave it here or eat it now. Just remains to say thank you very much to the speakers and Emma for organising